right, I think we've got everybody here, so let's get this thing started. Welcome, everybody. This is Connext Community Call number 6. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Grog. We're going to just go through a quick round of introductions here. If you're not familiar, Connext is an interoperability protocol that has a lot of cool things coming down the pipe. And of course, we've got a handful of folks here to talk about those. We also have a couple guests here from Inverter and Optyfi. Thank you again for joining us today. So we'll get started with introductions. We'll start with the Connext team themselves. And of course, first and foremost, we'll have Arjun introduce himself.
Awesome. Thanks, Rod. I'm Arjun. I'm one of the founders of Connext. I work on a little bit of everything at Connext. So that includes everything from like technical design to working with devs in the community. I'll hand it back over.
Perfect. Next, we'll talk to Rahul.
Yeah, hey everyone. I am also a co-founder of Connext. I'm leading the engineering side, so working on all things technical, mostly focused on all the off-chain infrastructure.
Awesome. Matthew.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew. I am the ecosystem lead here at Connext, so I oversee most public-facing items. Thanks, Greg.
And of course, Alex.
Hey, everyone. I'm Alex. I'm the head of product here. I focus the most on our strategy, prioritization, and the user experience that we have most recently on chain abstraction. Thanks.
Oh, was I muted for that? I'm having a good morning today. So from Inverter, we have a handful of guests here. So could we have Ada or Adaberg introduce yourself first?
Hi, everyone. This is Ata. I'm one of the co-founders of Inverter. And it's great to be here. And I'm heading our product design. And we are building a modular infrastructure protocol that enables programmable smart contract workflows that you can use to kind of condition dynamic asset flows and permissions across multiple smart contracts, all connected together and with different interacting agents. But happy to dive deeper into later.
Hey guys, it's Alp. I've been in the space for a while, contributing to various projects. I'm also focused on ecosystem and business design, interacting with governance and token design. I'm one of the initiators of the Inverter Network. Thank you for joining us here today.
Perfect. And our last guest would have been Faisal from Optyfi. You haven't accepted the speaker request, so please do at your next convenience. As soon I can see you're in the spaces. If you're not on a mobile device, you will need to use that to join in the spaces. Oh, there we go.
I'm founder at Optyfi. Optyfi is a yield optimization protocol. Our purpose is to allow users to essentially select their asset, select their risk level, and then sit back and relax while our tech does the rest. One of the things that I will talk about is how we feel we have hit a nice balance between on-chain Web3 as well as off-chain AI power. So looking forward to the call and discussing Optyfi.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for coming here today. We all really appreciate your presence. So we're just going to kick things off and get right into it. So I'll let Arjun take it away, and he can talk about all the big news that we just dropped yesterday.
Amazing. So yesterday we announced our latest fundraise. This is a raise that has been in the works for quite some time. And so we mentioned it on Discord a couple of times. So there were a lot of community members asking about when we would be announcing this. Unfortunately, paperwork just takes a while sometimes. And so we managed to close 7.5 million out of $250 million valve. And the goal of this fundraiser is largely strategic to basically work towards the decentralization of Connext as a broader ecosystem that goes beyond just the decentralization of the protocol, but also changing the way that like core protocol contributors, the relationship that core protocol contributors have with the protocol, and setting up a organizational structure for the way that people will be contributing in the future. So what does that mean? A big part of this raise is to fund the Connext Foundation. So Connext Foundation is an organization that has been set up and now exists. It is spearheaded by a person named Robert Drost, who is leads research at Consensus, and then also has a very, very long history of contributing to tech and building a lot of infrastructure for cloud computing. He's a really awesome person. You should check him out. The Connext Foundation's goal and the role that it's supposed to play in the ecosystem is to steward development. And what this means is that the foundation will be responsible for setting up a process, like a Connext improvement proposal process, by which organizations in the ecosystem, like Connext Labs, and there are other organizations contributing to Connext as well, including folks like the community leaders, some of the bigger router operators, et cetera. So the different organizations that are contributing to the protocol in different ways would be working with the foundation as part of this Connext improvement proposal process. And the foundation would be spearheading the direction that this ecosystem goes based on community feedback. We're super excited by this change and this transition. I think this is a really important piece of how protocols go from just being a single company or single labs entity that is like building a thing that is, it's supposed to eventually become this decentralized ecosystem, but initially starts out as just a single application or a single company. And making that transition to now this like much more powerful, much broader ecosystem where it becomes possible for a lot more people to come in and begin contributing. So yeah, that's a key part of what we're really, really excited about as part of this raise. And a big, is a transition that we've already started to kick off and will continue to happen over the course of the coming months. And yeah, that's pretty much it on the raise side. One last kind of important piece here is for those of you that read the raise announcement, you may have seen something that we had mentioned in the announcement, which is positioning Connext as the HTTP of Web3. So this is obviously like a little bit of a new narrative for Connext. It's something that we've been thinking about for some time, and it isn't necessarily something that's like very self-explanatory. So I think maybe just for the next couple of minutes, I'd also like to talk a little bit about where Connext is and where we're going, and what we believe, like what our vision is for the future of this space. We think that there is the world that we live in right now, in this ecosystem, in the what we'd like to call the interchain, is sort of like where the internet was in like the 1980s, where you have this really complex and confusing process for how users interact with applications that live on multiple chains, right? So today, if you want to go and use an app that lives on Polygon and you have all of your funds on Arbitrum, just the process of getting to Polygon to actually use the application requires you to not just bridge and switch chains and get gas and things like that, but even beyond that, have to even think about what chain you're on in the first place. And I think that model just isn't going to work long term. Every single ecosystem, literally every single ecosystem, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, zk-Sync, Starknet, et cetera, they're all working towards building layer 3s, basically building a way for people to come and spin up many, many new chains, many new rollups in a very, very short period of time with almost no work. We are heading towards, I will guarantee that before the end of this year, there will be at least 50 in production rollups that people will be using. I'm willing to bet also that by this point next year, that number will be well into the hundreds. And the world is heading towards there being thousands and thousands of chains and rollups. Now, in that kind of a world, how do you as a user interact with an application, right? It's even for people that know about the space, that know how this ecosystem works, that know the difference between Arbitrum and Polygon, it becomes increasingly difficult for you to know the difference between Arbitrum 1, Arbitrum Nova, Arbitrum 2, and then like 500 other chains that are deployed on Arbitrum. And I think that that's going to be one of the biggest like user experience hurdles that we head towards in the future. Our vision for the future is that in the same way that we're kind of living in this world where right now it's the early days of the internet. We have all of these different networks. You can connect to them, you can interact with them, you can use applications running on them. But that process is really manual. You have to actually think about what network you're on. You have to connect to another network in order to use it. We want to push this space forwards to what the internet looked like in the 1990s. And the 90s was really when the internet went through this really, really amazing transition, largely because of the creation of HTTP as a protocol and the World Wide Web. And this was the first time that the internet shifted away from being like a way to kind of just send information between different networks to being a network for content, right? A way to query and receive content all over the web. It created this new paradigm where you could build a website that was accessible from anywhere. You didn't have to spend a lot of time thinking about how to actually go and access that content. You could just go type in a URL and access that, like go and interact with Facebook or go and interact with YouTube. And that's the world that we need to head towards, is a world where any user is able to use any application from any chain using any asset. And that's really the direction that Connext is headed. We want to help build that open protocol that will eventually help completely abstract away the chain from the experience of using Web3. And on that note, I'll hand this back over to Grog for the rest of the call.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And definitely a lot to think about as we move forward into, well, we're almost in quarter 3 here. This year's been flying by. All right. So next I'm going to hand it over to Matthew and Alex, who are going to give us a little bit of an ecosystem update.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Alex, why don't you go ahead and get us kicked off before I jump into a lot of the other updates?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to go after Arjun on that. That was awesome. So just going to go through some of the metrics since launch. So in the last 4 months, we just broke $100 million total in volume. This is just on our V2, but it's still exciting to see the growth that we've seen. For context, overall, including V1, we are well over $1 billion, but this is good because it's just been hyper growth since we launched Amarok upgrade a few months ago. Just for context, some of the most interesting destinations that people have wanted to go to are definitely Arbitrum. Arbitrum's about 27%, and then followed by Polygon and Ethereum. In terms of the chains we do support, we're definitely thinking deeply about what we add next. There is a new chain abstraction page that you can look at that lists some of the ones we're looking at, but of course, we're looking at the ZK chains, looking at Base. These, just to set expectations, will take time to play out, but it is something that we're keenly focused on adding and expanding as soon as possible. From a liquidity perspective, we've also seen a ton of growth. Thanks to everyone that's competed in the Galaxy campaigns recently. Those have been fantastic. We've raised about 15 million into the pools. Actually, sorry, 20 million into the pools in the last month, and seen very little outflow. So right now there's 33 million in TVL overall. About 4 million is active, and the rest is in the pools. And this is awesome because it hopefully allows you to, as an LP, to earn yield, but it also supports the bridging experience. This is what really allows us to provide the fastest bridging possible to users. So those are some of the updates from our side. Yeah, Matt, I guess I'll pass it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Alex. So yeah, hello everyone. There's a lot to cover with you guys, and so I think that for the sake of time, we're going to start by hitting the highlights, and then as we move through the call, we'll deeper dive into some of these items. But maybe by way of a brief teaser and introduction to a couple of the guests we have today, would love to cover with you just in short a couple of the recent integrations. So maybe we can quickly start with Inverter that will be joining us today, and so thank you again for being here, and excited to introduce you guys to our community. Inverter is this integration that allows payment orders that can flow cross-chain. And so they partnered with us as part of chain abstraction to facilitate this. And so going off of what Arjun had mentioned around the use case, like we're hoping to provide an experience that feels more like the non-Web3 internet, such that users no longer have to consciously think about the chain they're on, or potentially the asset or token that they hold, and instead are freed up to interact with what matters most and where the value extraction is, which is on the product itself. And so with Inverter, they're one of the first projects that's really starting to leverage chain abstraction. And so very excited for their team to share more about the payment orders that they allow, and more about the project. Along those very same lines, we also have the team at Optyfi joining us today. Similarly, thank you so much, and excited for you guys to share more with the community. In short there, Optyfi allows you to earn the best yield on LSDs from any chain. And so they have kind of like a passive set and forget DeFi experience through their vault system that allows you to select like various risk protocols and to optimize your strategies with the hope of generating more optimal returns. And so again, I will let them kind of give a demonstration or at least a verbal demonstration of their product throughout the call here later today. But yeah, first and foremost, just again, wanted to extend my thanks to everyone that was able to join us today, and really excited to have you guys be part of the community. As Arjun mentioned, we've kind of had a busy and hectic month with announcements and bringing things to market. Everything from obviously yesterday's fundraising announcement that I think most of you saw, to the introduction of chain abstraction. I think one of the more interesting ones coming up for anyone that is a builder that's joining us here today is that very shortly, we will be announcing a Break the Testnet campaign to help with some of our scalability efforts. So we're hoping that will roll out in the coming weeks. And so just encourage everyone to keep an eye out. But the long story short there is that we would love your help in trying to send a lot of transaction load through our testnet, so that we can ensure that we have some of the best scalability, and that we're prepared for a lot of the future growth that we're geared to see, and for some exciting additional announcements coming up. Would also like to recap the Alpha Insiders campaign. I know a lot of you guys probably participated in that. It happened at the 21st of last month and ran for 5 days, and we had over 10,000 users participating. This required folks to bridge at least $50 and provide some form of LP in order to qualify. There may be a handful of you in the call that actually secured that NFT that has the specialized utility. Just know on that one, we will be making announcements on concrete details around that utility very soon. So would encourage you to stay tuned there. And then the final piece I will cover before handing it back to the rest of the team is that we frequently have questions from our community on our architecture, what it enables, the TLDR of how it works, or how it compares to other things in the space. And so as part of this, we are beginning to release a series that really breaks down in layman's terms the architectural stack, why we made the design choices we did, and what the basic functionality of each of the pieces of our architecture are. And so if you haven't already, I'd recommend that you check out that blog post that walks you through the first couple layers of the Connext modular protocol, and really talks again about those design choices and implications. and the way that we kind of put security first and have really leveraged some of the strongest and most secure architecture throughout the space. So yeah, all of this is to say we're super excited for you guys to be here. The team largely has been heads down, as many of you may have noticed. But in our case, that's a super good thing. We have a ton of amazing announcements coming up. These community calls are going to start recurring on a regular basis, and so we would love for you guys to be some of the first folks to hear about the latest announcements, and we'll do our best to give little alpha drops inside of these community calls as well. So yeah, with that said, I will turn it back over to Grarg to keep us going through our agenda.
Perfect. Right on. So we actually are going to be moving right back over to Arjun because we just didn't get enough of him earlier, who's going to talk to us a little bit about our chain abstraction announcements.
Awesome. Yeah, so obviously earlier in this call, I talked about, the kind of ultimate vision for Connext, being able to allow application developers to build dApps that just live on any chain, on every chain, right? To just like how on the internet today, you interact with an app, and that app is itself interacting with resources that are all over the internet. And that's really what makes the web amazing, is that you don't really have to think about where is this application and what is it using, what is it interacting with. It all just kind of works. But how do we get there? And that's really like one of the biggest questions that I think a lot of people are asking in this space, is that how do we actually create that end state of one day getting to the point where really you don't ever have to think about what chain you're on at all anymore. And everything is seamless. There's no more thinking about liquidity. There's no more thinking about which asset you have, things like that. And so we've tried to take our very first steps into this direction. And a key part of what we've realized is that there are some very small and tangible things you can do today that actually really massively improve your user experience as an application if you are just willing to kind of take the jump to thinking outside of just normal bridging. So as a quick recap, like if you're using Aave today, for example, and you want to move your position on Aave from one chain to another. So say, for example, you have a position in Aave on Polygon, and you see that there's actually way better yields on some other chain. This is something that I'm sure everyone in this space has at least heard of as a problem, or has experienced firsthand for many of you. That whole process is a bit of a nightmare, right? You have to think about, okay, I need to withdraw my funds, repay my loan on one chain, withdraw my funds from Aave, bridge those funds to another chain, get gas on that other chain, and then deposit funds back into Aave. And that's just like kind of bizarre for even people like us who have been in this space and have familiarity with like all the different chains and gas. And so you can imagine that when the next bull market comes around, it's going to be even more bizarre for people who are coming to this space for the first time and learning how to just like barely able to download MetaMask and learning how to like interact with applications, and then being faced with this user experience. Chain abstraction is this broader idea that you can create a application user experience where as a user, you don't really have to consciously bridge to get your funds to another chain and interact with the app. So in the Aave example that we were talking about earlier, instead of having to bridge your funds, pay gas, do all of those steps in order to deposit into Aave on Arbitrum, you would simply send the transaction on Optimism, and Aave's application would take care of, in the background, routing that transaction through a bridge, through Connext, to directly deposit into Aave on Polygon. And the most important thing here is that all of that happens in a single transaction. So you don't pay for gas on Arbitrum in that case. You pay gas on Polygon, you pay your funds on Polygon. You don't ever switch chains. You don't ever have to really think about bridging and all of the other associated steps involved in that. Is it completely chain-free? No, but it is a huge, huge improvement in experience, and especially for all kinds of use cases, so many different kinds of use cases that we've seen around things like, for example, depositing into LP pools, like I just mentioned, depositing into yield vaults, minting NFTs. So, for example, you want to mint an NFT as part of a Galaxy collection, or as part of some other system, but that NFT collection lives on Polygon and you only have gas to pay on another chain. Doing things like, claiming airdrops, doing things like paying or participating in LBPs. These are all really, really good examples of applications that today people use all the time, and they have to bridge in order to use them. And that whole step of bridging is itself what we want to get rid of. So I'm sure the kind of secondary question here is like, okay, well, Connext runs a bridge. Arjun, you guys have a bridge. A ton of people use it. What does that mean for Connext? And I think that this is an important point, because for us, we want to try to find ways to push the space forward. For us, bridging, Connext has a bridge, and that's been something that has been one of the primary ways that end users will interact with us. But we think that this is just like a stepping stone. It's sort of like the email of this like interchain world that we're in right now, where it's something that people will keep using, but you're eventually going to have text in chat in platforms like Twitter, so you don't have to email people all the time either. You can communicate with people in other ways, and that experience can get baked into the application itself. Chain abstraction is live today. It's possible to build applications using this pattern. There's already a few that are live. So a couple that we had announced earlier were Prod, which is a betting market that lives on Gnosis chain, and Fjord Foundry, which is an LBP system. So they build on top of Balancer to allow users to participate in liquidity, in basically liquidity bootstrapping pools, where they deploy capital into a pool to earn a token. It's a way to do a token launch. And Fjord is one of the kind of largest token issuing platforms in the space. And soon, we are now working towards a bunch of other chain abstraction integrations. We mentioned a little bit about Inverter, and Inverter is going to be chatting a bit about their own protocol later today. And then there's a bunch of others also in the pipeline. We announced Midas, for example. Midas is a isolated lending protocol that lives on multiple different chains. And in all of these cases, you want to, what we're trying to do is make it easy for users to use this application from whatever chain they're on. So as an app, you don't have to think about, okay, I can only onboard users on BNB chain or on Polygon, and they have to get there first. Yeah, that's basically it. Anyone have any, do you think I missed anything as part of the explainers? Sounds like no. Awesome. I'll hand it back.
Perfect. I think everybody's got a pretty good idea of that now, I'd hope. All right, so we're going to hand things over to our integration partners now, giving them a little bit of time to talk and showcase their product. So first off, we'll hand it over to Inverter. Whomsoever there wants to speak to your product, feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Just to start, I'll let Ata to deep dive into the technical details, but simply I just wanted to give a TLDR of Inverter. Inverter focuses on programmable workflows, as we mentioned, and our mission is to make sure that configuring and conditioning custom smart contract workflows for desired business and product needs are easy to do so in low-code environments. And to do that at scale, we designed the protocol architecture to act as a connector, kind of an orchestrator to prominent infrastructure technologies. Inverter's mission is kind of creating a design space for builders, as Arjun was mentioning. So people who try to improve their communities with blockchain-enabled technologies, who are like increasing on a daily basis in the last couple of years. People who are subject matter experts, such as like regional, scientists in different like developing countries with different domains of expertise, but they're in need of blockchains to start experimenting and having their ideas come to life. So shortly, Inverter stands to provide access to infrastructure technologies that enable self-sovereignty. Just to mention before I deliver Tata, and that's why we kind of think Connext is one of the crucial parts to our mission, and in general, like many people's mission, I guess, in the Web3 space, because it enables ease of onboarding, and in the future, like it will help incredibly to adoption to the space due to like this chain abstraction and so many network effects that will come through that core values of chain abstraction, if you think so. And next generation of Web3 users will interact with Web3 technologies without knowing what's happening on the background. This is what enabled the initial booms of the technology for the last 20 to 30 years. And we're just like, personally, I am really glad and excited to be a part of this journey as well. And I'll let Ata deep dive a bit on the protocol.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so as I've mentioned, with Inverter's programmable workflows, we aim to create templates with a low-code interface for anyone to be able to build their decentralized applications or use case without needing to face many of the hurdles and complexities that come with smart contract development. And even though smart contracts are so powerful and so empowering, and crypto applications with them are intended to democratize mechanism design and serve many different purposes in the real world. Still, building smart contracts or integrating existing solutions into an application is still extremely time and money consuming, complex. Many things still require manual integration and conditioning of value flows and smart contract interactions. And these become even harder when these contracts need to expand capability or integrate into another technology, like utilizing sitting funds, idle funds in a contract by generating yield on Aave until being called for a different purpose, as a very simple example. And all of these are a bit scary, and they require expertise to reach their full power. And these individual smart contracts may require changes and improvements over time, and all of these hurdles will need to be dealt with again and again. So in the end, to constantly evolve and support new capabilities in an emerging industry like ours, applications and projects cannot rely on isolated individual contracts, but there exists still no protocol infrastructure to condition dynamic asset issuance and distribution, like dynamic value flows across different smart contracts. And what we would have expected from this infrastructure would be to support adaptability, customizability, and interoperability to leverage technologies that blockchain offers. And this is why we built Inverter. And with these programmable workflows, what makes them special is that we created a protocol architecture that allows projects to construct protocols as workflows, where you can condition how assets flow across different smart contract snippets, which stakeholder groups have what access and permissions to what smart contract interactions, what kind of logics with varying complexity these smart contracts send and receive assets. And to construct these systems, we offer an open library of modules with beta-tested, audited contract functionalities that anyone can condition and customize into automated workflows. So we basically provide the building blocks for a wide range of smart contract interactions. And we work with applications that use our module library as a plug-and-play solution to implement smart contract workflows specific to their use cases. And this modularity not only supports these ever-expanding range of use cases and applications, but also enables an iterative process for smart contract capabilities as we experiment and explore how we serve real-world problems. So you can, with Inverter's architecture, you can switch in and out different modules, basically without breaking the system. And you can use any functionalities that other projects have used by leveraging Inverter. So these use cases can range from conditioned payment streams to dynamic staking mechanisms, KPI-based token rewards, investable work streams, and fully fledged protocols. So you can basically configure them to your own need and build your application. And basically, you want to carry the powers of blockchain to real-world applications that people in developing regions, which is where we come from, can easily build and use. And this not only comes with making smart contracts accessible and easily customizable to local needs, but most importantly, moving towards a blockchain abstracting stack that reduces the complexity of the technology whilst still giving access to all the powers that it brings. So it needs to remove the hurdles of interacting with a crypto wallet, as a simple example, but also that if I launch a protocol, it needs to access the liquidity and user base in different chains. It needs to be able to tap into multiple ecosystems and scale in an ecosystem with, as Arjun said, a 50 roll-up feature. And this is why we are so excited about Connext partnership, because it forms a core part of where we want to go as Inverter. And we want to build with Connext to enable applications that deploy an inverter with inverter workflows to be basically cross-chain on day one. So any protocol interaction they facilitate can receive funds with any asset from any chain, send payments to recipients in any other chain in whatever currency they desire, that allows them to kind of cash out to their bank account or transact with it in their local area, and allow governance to happen across many chains as well, to also unlock the doors for multi-chain cooperation. Yeah, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you very much. Anybody on the team want to speak to your integration experiences with Inverter, or how it worked, I guess, from the Connext side at all?
Yes. So we basically did a comprehensive research on kind of how do we facilitate this on day one cross-chain capability with complex protocol interactions. And we kind of create a roadmap with Connext in terms of creating this automated integration package for applications that utilize inverter workflows. With Chain Abstraction SDK, it's pretty easy to enable cross-chain deposits and inverter workflow deployments. And to kind of bring that full capability on facilitating payments being issued to recipients in different chains, we will be building a module for cross-chain token transfers. And we are also exploring how we can integrate with new projects that are launching on Inverter to natively integrate X token standard as well. But so far, it's been pretty good at how we have been collaborating with the Connext team, and how we've been able to use their SDK and basically be able to build on top.
Awesome. Thank you so much for speaking to that. And now we will move over to Optyfi and talk to them a little bit about their product and their integration experience.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Usually what I do is I introduce Optyfi as a protocol where we enable users to select their asset, select their risk profile, and then let our technology do the rest, which is to auto shift their assets to the best strategies. But Arjun just said something that made me think of a different way to say this. So Arjun said, you guys are building Connext so that the user doesn't have to worry about what chain your assets are on. And I think that's a perfect way to kind of summarize Optyfi, is we're building Optyfi so you don't have to worry which pool your token is on, if that makes any sense. So if you just take the logic one level up, I hold USDT, I hold ETH, and I want to hold it, but I also want to generate maximum yield on it. And not only do I not, well, I do care of the risk profile, but within, let's say, my acceptable pools to me, I don't care. I would like you to move it around. So that's what we like to do. So, you may be on Lido. Lido is giving the best stake ETH returns right now, but then tomorrow it might be Rocket Pool. And day after tomorrow, the extra ones. No, I'm good with all three of those. And not only that, sometimes there may be something on Arbitrum that's even better. So what we'd like to do is we'd let the user say, okay, this is kind of my risk profile that accepts these 4 or 5 or 6 pools. And then we would, so yes, thank you, Arjun. I think we have a new tagline for Optyfi. But just to kind of, what I'd like to do quickly is introduce you guys to the product of Optyfi. and then introduce you to why the underlying technology is so important to deliver on that product, and then really focusing on cross-chain and why we think cross-chain is so cool and why we think building with Connext is so cool. So product-wise, it's pretty simple. We have vaults. We have 3 categories of vaults. Like I said, all the user should do is pick their asset and their risk profile. How do they do that? We have 3 risk profiles, essentially. We have earn, invest, and venture, and that's kind of going up the risk tolerance scale. Earned vaults are essentially vaults which some people call delta neutral. They put your asset into the best, either liquid staking or lending protocol. So if you have ETH, the ETH earned vault would essentially look at, okay, what's Lido giving me? What's Rocket Pool giving me? What's XYZ liquid staking protocol giving me? What's Aave giving me? What's Compound giving me? What is Euler giving me, etc. All of these, there's no loss. There should be no loss as long as the protocol works as designed. And we essentially will shift your assets between them. By the way, Earn Vault also solves another problem if you're worried about concentration of your assets in one protocol, because any protocol, we've seen Euler get hacked. Your best friend against exploits, I always maintain, is diversification. So Earn Vaults, in version 2, which is coming soon, will also be, partitioning some of ETH into, let's say, Rocket Pool, some into Lido, some into Aave, etc. So you achieve not only optimal shifting, you also achieve diversification. That's earn. Next step up is invest. So what is invest? Invest, again, imagine you have an ETH invest pool, but now we all know that there are certain tokens that are outperforming ETH. For example, Blur outperformed ETH at some point in time. Render won the AI narrative, etc., etc. So what ETH Invest is doing is LPing your token into a pool with ETH as one part of the pair and a token that's outperforming ETH as the other pair. So what happens, as you guys well know, ETH gets converted, some of it gets converted to the other token Render. You go into the pool, you're earning fees, great, but once you exit, you actually have more ETH when you come out. So now what's happened, you're an ETH hodler. Not only did your hopefully ETH price in US dollars go up, but your number of ETH went up. So a fancy way, another way to say that, a fancy way to say that is you get some market exposure. You get ETH yield plus some market exposure. That's invest. And then the next level up, the risk profile, is is venture. And this is I think the most fun part is like the newer tokens. They would have a venture vault. So something like a Blur or something like a Render, or someday when Connext comes out with a token, a Connext vault. And the cool thing about these venture vaults is they're actually providing liquidity to the main liquidity pool of that token. So for example, with Blur or Connext, if there's a liquidity pool, this vault would actually put funds into that liquidity pool, and it would borrow from our ETH vault. Remember our Earn vault. Remember, Earn vault is it's going to act as a lender. So you achieve 2 benefits. If you're a long-term supporter of some protocol, such as Connext, well, you don't have to have both sides. You want to support them by having, being an LP in their main liquidity pool. You don't have to have USDC or ETH. Our Earn vault will lend it to the Connext vault and put it in. So for the user, it's really simple. You pick the risk profile you want to be at, you pick the token you want to be at, and then we do the rest. Now, I guess a word on how we actually achieve that, and this leads into a very interesting topic everybody's interested in, AI and its role in DeFi. Now, we have a specific position on this. We think we've kind of hit a balance between, so in my opinion, Web3 brings you transparency, it brings you user control, and we deliver all of that in our vaults. So our vaults are, smart contracts, they're on-chain, you can see your assets, you can see where your assets are deployed at any time, and most importantly, the vault enforces risk. So if you're in Earn, you'll know exactly the pools that this vault can run strategies on. And if you're an invest, you'll know exactly the pools this vault can run strategies on. So your risk is enforced by the vault and cannot be changed, immutability. However, how to know what is the best strategy to run is just not a job for the blockchain. It's just a job for, well, not the blockchain that exists today anyways. It's a job for off-chain ML AI power. And that's what we do. We actually have an AI engine that is constantly monitoring all the pools, not all the pools, but the pools that meet our criteria, and monitoring APYs, and then monitoring what we believe is the future of those, like prediction based. Especially the more you get into market exposure, the more granular we have to be with our prediction. So we have a whole, and we have an article in Medium. Anybody's interested, it's actually quite a long article. So if you're actually technically inclined, we talk about our entire AI lifecycle and how it works. We have optimization of parameters. We have a model optimizer that's looking at hundreds of thousands of possible optimal models to find the best strategies, etc. But there's a whole different discussion. Needless to say, is we have an off-chain AI-powered process, AI engine that will recommend the best strategy to every vault, and the on-chain vault will then run it. Okay, so that is sort of how we've found an ideal balance between AI and Web3. And the critical thing, like people will say, okay, so you have this AI engine recommending strategies, isn't that centralization risk? But the thing is, the risk is enforced on chain. So I think we've hit a model that when you work with hedge funds and other centralized exchanges, whatever centralized platforms like BlockFi, you give them your funds and hope for the best. It goes into their wallet and they control it. The difference with us is it stays in on-chain. Your assets are there at all times. You know where they're going, and our AI engine acts like an oracle. And in the future, maybe somebody else comes up with a better AI engine, and the vault can then subscribe to that AI engine. So the community can decide, hey, Optyfi team, your AI engine is great, but this other team has a better AI engine. The vault needs to be listening to that AI engine's recommendations. So that's sort of like a quick cover of the product, the underlying technology, and the way we believe in using cross-chain is there's like a couple of layers. The first layer is UX. So we already took the issue of which pool do I want to be in. We abstracted away from the user. Our ETH vault will put you in the best pool, so you don't have to worry about that. We still have the problem of the user having to say, hey, I want to be on ETH on Ethereum, I want to be on ETH on Arbitrum, I want to be on ETH on Matic. We still have that problem. That's where we see, Connext as a perfect partner for us, because we'd like a user to come on. And by the way, like, this product is designed because I am like the number one user of this product. I would love to gain exposure to all the L1s as they're coming out, the ARBs, the Optimism, Matic. I would love to have funds diversified, but I don't have time to be going across chain and then bridging and then putting funds here. Oh, did I put 20% there? What's the value now? With Optyfi, it's one-stop shop. You come in, you're like, okay, I really like these five. I love these 5 chains. They're really bullish on Ethereum, Matic, Avalanche, Optimism, Arbitrum, BSC. I love these. I want to be long-term. Take my USDC, which is on Ethereum right now. Take my $10,000 and distribute it 20% across all of these. Boom, done in one stop. That's the UX we want to achieve. Now come to our portfolio. Come to our app again. Look up your balances across all chains, and you're like, okay, you know what? ARB is performing really well. Let me shift some of my funds from, I'm not going to do another chain, but some other chain to ARB. Boom, you're done. All from one spot. So you're kind of really managing. You're deciding what token you want. We keep going back to the premise. Decide what token you believe in. Decide the risk profile, and let us do the rest. So you could potentially say, I really like the performance ARB. I want to put some in ARB Invest. I've been ARB Earn. ARB Earn has been great for me, but I want to go up the risk scale a bit. So I want to move something from ChainX into ARB Earn. So that's kind of the UX cross-chain we want to achieve. And at the next level, we want to achieve cross-chain strategies. And cross-chain strategies are like, now you have funds on ETH Vault, but guess what? The ETH strategies in Arbitrum are doing really well. So now the ETH Vault is sending funds over to ETH on ETH Vault. Our ETH Vault on Ethereum is sending funds over to our ETH Vault on Arbitrum and running strategies there. And then we're super cool. Then we've really abstracted away the entire multi-chain, and we're really operating as if, there's a model of assets that just move across chains with like no friction. Yeah, so I know that's quite a mouthful, but I'm very excited working with Connext. I think they really are what is the saying, yin to our yang, or whatever that saying is. So yeah, look forward to working with Connext. And in terms of the experience with Connext, really it's been great. Max, many people may not know it, but Max was with Optyfi before he was with Connext, so we have a long working relationship. In that dimension, and then we were introduced to Arjun, and honestly, I didn't know Arjun was the founder because he's like right in there at the code level looking at. We shared some our Opti token design with him, so to us it was very, I guess, seamless. We didn't realize, we thought he was one of the devs, but he ends up being a founder, so nice.
All right. Wow. So that brings us to the end of our spaces. We're hitting our... Oh, get a little bit more. You've been cutting out a little bit, so...
Oh, was I cutting out?
Just here and there earlier on. It hasn't been recently. I just thought... wasn't sure if you finished up there.
I'm finished. I'm done. I think I've spoken enough. If there's any questions, glad to take them. Otherwise, I'm turning mic off.
Fair enough. And that is where we are in this. So if there are any questions, I haven't seen any pop up here, then we can field those. Otherwise, I'm going to give a quick opportunity just for everybody to say a final piece before we wave goodbye to our wonderful audience. I'll allow Optyfi and Inverter to say their pieces first, but go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I totally, there was one thing that I had intended to discuss, and this is a little bit of a shill. Opti token is launching next Friday. Very excited about that. It's a utility token, and we are planning an airdrop, and we're working closely with Connext. So anybody can read between the lines, but beyond that, I'll just leave as sort of subliminal message there.
Amazing. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining, and thank you Arjun as well. Like, just since we're shilling things, I would like to shill Arjun, like during the Turkish relief efforts during the earthquake, like talking about hands-on founder. Like, we just reached out to Connext team to enable like kind of donations, directing donations from mainnet to Optimism, from Optimism to mainnet, and like in about 4 to 5 hours, I guess, like they built a Donation X and just enabled around $40,000 of donations to go to real world NGOs. So I just wanted to, mention that as well, and thank you guys for having us on the space.
Thank you guys for jumping on. And honestly, I think we were the smallest contributors to that whole coordination effort. Like the work that you guys and everybody else that was involved and on the ground in Turkey was honestly so amazing to see. And that's what this space is about. I mean, there's some really, really cool stuff that we can do if we all stop, building dog coins and start doing other stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. I really like the direction that both of these protocols are heading in, because it's really taking us from what is like the starting of our vision, where it's user initiated bridge transactions, and where the user is actually choosing, and chain abstraction is kind of like a enhancement on top of that, where the user is actually the one pressing the button that actually does the bridging. But what you guys are both pioneering in quite different ways is protocol enabled bridging. And this is really like where things really get interesting, is where the protocol is kind of doing these smart things, like in the Optyfi case is, using AI models to determine where funds should be bridged to and from. And this is really where you see the power of this interoperability tooling, and where, like, you know, our XCall primitives really make a strong appearance to kind of power this type of infrastructure. And as well with Inverter, with kind of like the drag and drop workflows, you can just have like these kind of like automated things that are just sitting there, and they're free for anyone to use. And that's kind of like the protocol controlling this bridging aspect. So I'm just really excited to see both of these guys building in this direction, and really excited for the future of this stuff.
All right. Anybody else wanting to say a final piece before I start winding things down? Last chance. All right. Well, if that's all, then of course I want to thank everybody here who came out to speak with us. Those from the Connext team and those from our integration partners, thank you so much for speaking. We truly appreciate your time and effort here. So once again, my name is Grarg, and if you're not following everybody in this spaces, I will once again call out to everyone to encourage you to do so. These are, of course, some of the most brilliant minds in the space, and if you're not following them, then you need to be, because you will get some of the best insights you could possibly get from just peeping on those Twitters. Of course, please join us on Discord. If you're not already on Connext Discord, please join us at discord.gg/Connext. Have a chat with us. We do listen to everyone. We want to hear your feedback. And of course, there's a ton of exciting stuff coming up, so you definitely want to be close to the news. And of course, last but not least, builders, please watch out for our Break the Testnet event, which will be going live very soon. Once again, I thank you so much for joining us on Connext Community Call number 6. And I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday.